The sun beat down on the cracked asphalt of the community basketball court, where the air was thick with the scent of grilled carne asada and roasted elotes from nearby food trucks. Laughter and reggaeton pulsed through the crowd of teenagers and young adults, a mix of Puerto Rican and Mexican locals who filled the sidelines with folding chairs and coolers. Javier, a lanky 19-year-old Mexican-American with a faded Dodgers cap, dribbled a worn basketball, his focus sharp despite the chatter around him. His cousin Marisol, 18 and quick with a comeback, leaned against a chain-link fence, scrolling on her phone but keeping an eye on him. The court was neutral ground, or so it was supposed to be, a place where pickup games and trash talk stayed friendly. But today the vibe shifted when Ricky, a 20-year-old Puerto Rican-American with a loud laugh and a swagger that demanded attention, strutted onto the scene with his friend Tito trailing behind. Ricky's voice cut through the music, sharp and mocking as he pointed at Javier. "Mira este Tito pensando que es estrella," he said, his grin wide but his eyes narrow. Tito, shorter and wiry, gave a half-hearted chuckle, his gaze darting to the crowd. Javier ignored them, spinning the ball on his finger, his rhythm steady. He wasn't here for drama, he just wanted to play. But Ricky had other plans. He sauntered, over, snatching the ball mid-dribble and holding it above his head like a trophy. "Oye, Mexicano, ¿qué tal si me dejas jugar con esto?" he taunted, tossing the ball between his hands. Javier stopped, wiping sweat from his brow, and met Ricky's stare. "Devuélveme la pelota, carnal," he said, his voice low and even. The word carnal hung in the air, a casual term of camaraderie that Ricky twisted into something else. "Carnal?" he mimicked, stepping closer. "¿Qué te crees bien chido, pinche mexicano, aquí mando yo?" The crowd hushed, sensing the shift. A few kids pulled out their phones, ready to capture whatever came next. Marisol pocketed her phone and stepped forward, her braids swinging. "Ricky, déjalo en paz," she said, her tone sharp. "Nadie está buscando problemas." Ricky turned to her, his grin widening. "Tranquila, princesa, solo estoy jugando," he said, then spun back to Javier. "¿O qué? ¿Vas a llorar?" A spat on the ground near Javier's sneakers, the glob landing close enough to be a deliberate insult. The crowd gasped, a mix of oohs and whispers rippling through. Javier's jaw tightened, but he didn't move, his hands loose at his sides. He'd dealt with guys like Ricky before, loudmouths who thrived on pushing buttons. "No soy de pleitos," he said, his voice steady. "Pero no me falta el respeto." The words only fueled Ricky. He laughed, loud and forced, and shoved Javier's shoulder lightly, testing him. "¿Y qué vas a hacer, eh?" he said, his voice rising. "Pégame, culero." Tito laughed too, but his eyes flicked nervously to the growing crowd, now forming a loose circle around them. Some shouted encouragement, others told them to chill, but the energy was electric, teetering on the edge of chaos. Marisol pushed, through, trying to get between them. "Javier, vámonos," she said, her hand on his arm. "No vale la pena." But Ricky wasn't done. He grabbed the ball again and hurled it at Javier's chest hard enough to sting. Javier caught it, his fingers gripping the leather tightly. The crowd's chants grew louder. "Pelea! Pelea!" And Ricky fed off it, bouncing on his toes like a boxer. "¿Qué, no tienes huevos?" he taunted, stepping closer. Javier set the ball down, his patience fraying but his control intact. "Última vez, Ricky," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "Devuélveme mi espacio." Ricky's laugh was sharp and he swung a mock punch, stopping inches from Javier's face. The crowd roared, phones raised high. Javier didn't flinch, his eyes locked on Ricky's, a quiet intensity burning in them. Tito shifted uncomfortably. "Ricky, yeah, bro," he muttered, tugging at his friend's sleeve. "Déjalo." But Ricky shook him off, shoving Javier harder this time, enough to make him stumble. The crowd's noise spiked, and Marisol shouted, "Basta!" But it was too late. Javier stepped forward, his calm facade cracking just enough to show he wasn't backing down. "Te lo advertí," Javier said, his voice barely audible over the crowd. Ricky charged, throwing a wild punch aimed at Javier's jaw. The move, was sloppy, fueled by bravado, and Javier was ready. He ducked, grabbing Ricky's arm and twisting it behind his back in a smooth, practiced motion, something his uncle, a retired cop, had taught him for self-defense. Ricky yelped, more surprised, then hurt and struggled against the hold. "Cálmate," Javier said, his grip firm but not cruel. "O esto va empeorar." The crowd fell silent, stunned by the reversal. Ricky's face flushed red, his pride stung more than his arm. Marisol stepped in, waving her arms. "Ya todos, retrocedan," she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. Tito grabbed, Ricky's other arm pulling him back. "Loco, déjalo," he hissed. "Te pasaste." Ricky yanked free, spitting on the ground again, his eyes blazing with humiliation. "Esto no se queda así, Mexicano," he shouted, but he backed off, the crowd parting to let him through. Some clapped for Javier, others whispered about Ricky's defeat, the moment already spreading through group chats and social media. Javier picked up his ball, his breathing steady but his heart racing. Marisol grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the sidelines. "Sabía que no ibas a caer en su juego," she said, a proud smile breaking through her worry. "Pero Ricky no va a olvidar esto." Javier shrugged, tossing the ball lightly. "Que no lo olvide," he said. "No busco pleitos, pero no me dejo." They walked off the court, the crowd thinning as the music started up again, the drama already fading into the rhythm of the day. Later, as the sun dipped low, Javier and Marisol sat on a bench near a taco truck, splitting a plate of carnitas. The court was quiet now, just a few kids shooting hoops. Marisol nudged him, her voice teasing. "Oye, manejaste eso como jefe," she said. "Pero ten cuidado. Ricky es de los que guardan rencores." Javier took a bite, chewing thoughtfully. "Si quiere seguir, que lo intente," he said, "pero no va a encontrar lo que espera." Across the street, Ricky leaned against a wall, scrolling through his phone, his jaw tight. Tito sat beside him, trying to lighten the mood. "Bro, déjalo ir," he said. "No vale la pena." But Ricky's eyes were fixed on a video of the confrontation already racking up views. He didn't respond, but his grip on the phone tightened, his mind racing with plans for round 2. The neighborhood settled into its evening hum, the clash at the court just another story to be retold, embellished, and argued over. For Javier, it was a line drawn, a quiet stand that spoke louder than any punch could. For Ricky, it was a wound to his pride, one he wouldn't let heal easily. And for the community, it was a reminder that respect wasn't given. It was earned sometimes, the hard way.